Do you want to be a professional photographer? Step 1, you're doing it. Listen to the Focal Podcast. Step 3, profit. Wait, what was step 2?
What is up, Focal friends? This is Sierra
and Kirsty,
and welcome to What the Focal, the only photography podcast hosted by non-photographers, where we talk to industry experts to hear their stories and learn from their experiences.
On today's episode of What the Focal, we're interviewing the CEO of Focal and our boss, Lachlan.
Welcome, Lachlan!
Hello. I am industry expert, I guess. Lightsaber. I'm so sorry. It's great to be here. I'm very, very excited for this initiative, and can't wait for all the fun we're gonna have.
Yes!
Oh yeah. So a little bit about this podcast. I'm Kirsty.
And I'm Sierra.
And we're not photographers.
For real.
So tell me then, why are you doing a podcast for photographers if you guys aren't photographers?
We want to learn.
Yeah, what we found at Focal is we have a huge access to lots of stories and lots of industry experts, and we want to give them a platform to talk about their stories, learn from their experiences. We're super curious, and we figured a lot of other people would be super curious as well.
We're dumbing it down, making it simple.
I absolutely agree with you, Kirsty. I think what I'm most excited about for this is the fact that I think a lot of the current photography podcasts out there, especially the ones about business and growing, a sustainable business, it's always like a very expert photographer talking to another very expert photographer. And I think when that happens, you just end up talking at this like crazy high level where if you're a newcomer to the industry, it can be really hard to understand some of what's going on. So what I'm really excited for is, bringing on some of our amazing mentors from our Banff Nautic conference, some of our amazing, very, very successful photographers that use Focal, and having them chat with you, because I think you being not photographers is going to make it so much more accessible, and they're going to have to speak to you at almost the level of a client, which I think is also really important from a business perspective. And that's what I'm really, really excited for. So this is just great.
Yeah, we're super excited to be starting this.
So Lachlan, tell us a bit about yourself and how you got the company started.
Sure, I can tell you that. The story always goes, me and my partner, Aaron, we were out in Banff. And again, like, I'm not a photographer at all. A lot of people ask me that. I come from a business background, a tech background, and pretty much it was our anniversary. I'm a pretty sappy guy. I like to scrapbook, and I thought we could get some really, really nice photos that I thought, we'd both enjoy. And so I went out to try to book a photographer, went on Google, and I typed in, Banff couples photographers, and I was trying to look at 12 different websites, and suddenly I was 5 hours down this rabbit hole of looking at photographers' websites, and I just couldn't figure out how you actually book somebody. And I was like, can someone please just take my money? I want to book somebody. Your guys' work is awesome, but I have to email you. It takes forever. I don't know when you're available. It was a little bit short notice. And what was really sad is I ended up actually not hiring a photographer, and we didn't really get any great photos from that trip, and that was really, really sad. So it kind of got me thinking about the industry, and what I realized was I think a lot of photographers can sort of benefit from tools that essentially just make it much easier for them to take their clients' money, and much easier for clients to just give them money, and that's really what Focal's become today. So that's a little bit about me. Feel free to ask anything else.
Was this the only business idea you kind of ever had, or have you had other things going in the past?
That's a great question. I guess I've always been sort of an entrepreneur. I had some other really crazy businesses in the past. They all kind of come from a problem, some sort of problem that I'm facing. Prior to Focal, I was just doing this fun side hustle where I was essentially making these hanging clothes racks out of Home Depot parts. And it all started because Aaron and I moved into this place. I guess all my stories start with Aaron. So, but Aaron and I moved into this place, and it was essentially just like this room. It was like a room, and then there was like a bathroom. It wasn't very nice. I was in this basement, and there wasn't a closet, and Aaron has a ton of clothes, and I was like, where do we put all the clothes? So I came up with this idea that I would start making these like clothes racks, these like modern clothes racks. And so I went to Home Depot, got some like stainless steel pipe. I ran like a cable from the ceiling. You've probably seen them now. They've become very popular, but it's essentially just like a pipe with a cable running through it, hanging off the ceiling, and it looks very modern. It fit a ton of clothes. The galvanized cable that I got was like weighted for like thousands of pounds, so you can really put my clothes on it. But I looked at it and I was like, hey, this looks pretty good. I'm gonna try to like just go and sell this like on Etsy for fun. So I started selling them on Etsy for a lot, maybe $400 for a 4 to 6 foot rack. And this is like $20 of Home Depot parts, and I brought in one of our photographers to actually help me do some product photography for it, and they looked really, really nice. I'll even grab some photos. We can put it on the podcast here to show people what they looked like, but they looked really great. And they ended up being used in, funny enough, like I think a couple bridal boutiques like down in the States, they were using them to hang wedding dresses. It was cool because they were adjustable because they were on a cable. But yeah, I've always had sort of side hustles, and even before that, I was like selling RVs. It's another story.
What a fun little story. I didn't know
that.
What do you how do you think your business background sets Focal apart within the photography industry?
Oh, that's a really good question, Sierra. I think, again, it always comes back to this concept of like not being a photographer. I think everyone has their strengths, and what I admire most about photographers is their creativity, their artistic vision, their ability to execute, and also create amazing experiences for people like in the photo shoot, because it's not easy getting your photo taken. It's not easy when you haven't had professional photos done before, and I really admire the photographers that make that a fun and comfortable and just memorable experience. I think when I started this business, one of the things that I was really surprised at was like what people take away often is so much more than just the photos. Like they come out of the photo shoot and they feel great, they had a fun time. Like that's just like a memorable experience that they'll have with them for the rest of their life. And when that happens, it's really magical because the photos are awesome as a result of that. Kind of could come back to your question there about the business side. I think my naivety about the photography industry is actually a huge asset. Most of the time I approach problems or when I'm trying to problem solve or work with some of our photographers, whether it's, with their websites or their back-end systems or, just trying to coach them in their business. In our business accelerator program, it's like I try to take everything from a client perspective. And I think that's really, really important because if you're a photographer that's been shooting for a really, really long time, you start to forget, like, you almost take yourself for granted. You take like everything, like all the hard work and experience that you've gained over the years, and then you almost devalue yourself. Whereas someone coming in from like the outside who has no idea, has never seen any of this before, is just fascinating and has a huge appreciation when I see someone like in their element doing really amazing work. So almost like think it's that, again, not a photographer perspective that I think can really help also remind photographers, again, everything that they put into what they do.
Did you ever find it, like when you're just starting out, that like you had to like consider the creative aspects that comes from a photographer when approaching them with your business platform? Or like, did you find that a struggle adjusting to that at all?
Every day, we still encounter this every day at Focal. I think creating art is one thing. Turning your art into a business that people are going to pay for and value you for is separate, and you have to walk a fine line, and I have a huge appreciation for that. I never want to use the word like compromise at all, but I think it is like finding this balance of how can I, create art when it's also not just for me, but for another person. I think that's like a really important consideration. But that's something I struggle with every day. There are a lot of times where I'm working with a photographer, one of our customers perhaps, and they want to do something their way, but I'm like, that is a terrible decision for SEO, or that's going to slow your website down, or, but I think part of it again is like, it's just communication. Like, they see their website from one angle, they're like, oh, I want my, maybe my hero image to be, full resolution, but I'm looking at that and being like, wow, that's a 30 megabyte image, and if someone loads up on their phone, it's going to take like 20 seconds. And a lot of the time, I think, like, when we communicate that way, I'm like, oh yeah, I totally understand your images need to be like really sharp. That's the first impression clients are having of you, but let's strike a medium. Okay, so let's make that image a little higher quality. Some of the smaller images, less prominent images on the site, maybe we can compress those a little down, and we can come to this medium where your site still loads fast and people can still book you, right? And that's something, like, again, like, those conversations are conversations we have all the time with our users and our customers, and something I have a huge appreciation for.
We're keeping it real here.
When it comes to Focal, is there anything that you think makes the company stand out among other competitors?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is myself and our team, both of you, really, really care about photographers, and even though we're coming from this business perspective, we have this huge appreciation for the creative and the art side. Like, you're an example right there. So Kirsty's a fine arts major, and Sierra's business background again. So there's always this like meeting of minds in the middle there. And I think that's something that's very important to us. Like, for me, Focal's mission has always been to make the photography industry a better place. I really, really believe in creating sort of win-win-win scenarios where everyone is better off. And I think a lot of the competitors in the industry maybe don't think that way. And I find it really sad to see sometimes, there are companies out there like The Knot or Wedding Wire, where I feel like, sometimes they're willing to compromise the people that really actually make up their business. And to me, that doesn't make any sense. The people that make up your business are the core, the most important part. And as a business, it's our job to sort of take care of them first. That's, I guess, my perspective, and something that we're going to continue to bring forward as Focal grows. And really important that we don't lose sight of that.
Yeah, I think I would add to that and say, like, one of the things that really shows we respect our clients is, like, we could be sitting in an office and we'll come across a photographer that has amazing photos, and we just have a pure curiosity, and we'll like sit through and we'll be like, oh my god, their photos are so good, and we'll like all kind of gather around and just like, we really respect the way the art that you guys produce and everything like that. We have a huge curiosity and a passion for helping you guys out.
Yeah, and I see that from both of you every day. Like, I think it's awesome when you guys get excited. You're working with a photographer who's a great person, who does, amazing art and creation, and we get excited about actually helping our photographers too. And I think that's really, really important. I guess my perspective in life is like, don't do anything that you're not excited about. Like, if you're not excited to get up in the morning and do that, what's the point? And for me, like, being able to help artists turn what they do into a business is hugely rewarding to me, because I feel like, I guess, I'm this piece of the puzzle that attaches to them again very nicely and makes a really nice sort of whole like team. And again, just have a huge appreciation for what it takes to go out and pursue a passion for your art. And it's not easy. It can be very lonely. I see a lot of similarities in building like a tech startup like Focal with trying to start a business as a wedding photographer or a family photographer or whatever it is. So I think there are a lot of similarities despite them being sort of these opposite sides of the coin.
Yeah. Is there anything that you found has been kind of the hardest part of creating Focal and
I think the hardest part and the most rewarding part is like the learning part. I learn new things every day. Going into our Banff Nautic conference, which ended up being, a massive success, selling almost, I think, close to 40 tickets now for Maui. Every single person would say that that's just hugely, hugely successful. But even for me, I look back on that and I want to know what we could have done better. And so, I've been talking to photographers that attended and getting their feedback. We've been reading the surveys. And there's lots of things that I'm thinking about how we can improve on. And I think it is just like this almost childish naivety, like where like I just don't have the same experience as a lot of people in the industry, and I don't think of things. And so again, like I'm not an expert and I don't think that I know everything, but I try to surround myself with people that are great communicators that again care and share the same values about helping photographers. And I think that's like what we did in Banff. There were lots of things I didn't think of, like hair and makeup or like what the couples were going to wear. I knew there needed to be couples there. I knew that we needed to have great locations, but there were a lot of things that just didn't even cross my mind. And I was really glad to have Janine from Fabulosity and Jana from Behind the Blush doing hair and makeup there, and they sort of filled in those gaps. But the hardest thing is always the learning. There's always more to learn.
So what do you envision for the future of Focal? What's the goal from now on?
Yeah, that's a great question, Kirsty. Honestly, like it comes all back to that sort of mission to make the photography industry better. And there are a lot of areas that I see that. A lot of you don't know, but actually Focal started as the Focal Marketplace. When I actually coded the first version of Focal, it was this iPhone app. You can kind of think of it like Airbnb for finding a photographer. And really what I see out there is clients are still struggling to book photographers. They're looking for like a place to find a good match in terms of like their personality with the photographer. And that's something that I think there's a lot of room for improvement on, especially when you look at like Wedding Wire and The Knot that are out there. I think honestly treating photographers really, really terribly. The master plan for Focal honestly is to replace Wedding Wire and The Knot and create a place where clients can easily find a photographer that's a great fit for them, and book them seamlessly and help photographers make more money and grow their businesses. That's where I see Focal going, and that's like sort of the ultimate goal. And I think just to add to that, the matching part is extremely important in this. And I think it's really important, I guess, if you're a photographer too, thinking about your business, thinking about like who your customers are and also like what makes you special and who are the people that you like sort of connect with. I always use this example because I think it illustrates it really well, but I was attending a shoot long time ago at the very start of Focal with a photographer here in Victoria, and he was doing a very traditional shoot in this beautiful tall grass over by the ocean with this couple that was more traditional, and he had lights and he was directing them and giving them lots of instruction, and it was a great shoot. They were having a good time. A little ways down the road there was another really amazing photographer from the area, but she was doing something very, very different with her clients. She was, she'd get her camera out and then she would just start laughing like out of the blue behind her camera, like just totally unannounced, and that like shock almost like, or like, just it being so out of the blue would make the clients laugh, and they would have a really genuine moment, and she would capture that. And I looked at that example contrasted with what the photographer I was with was doing. And it's just such a different experience. And what was really funny is the couple we were with turned and saw what was going on over there, and they were like, please don't do that to us. Please don't start laughing at us. And I think that really, really illustrates the fact that like, you as a photographer, your work might be amazing, but you and your experience and the way you interact with clients is not always going to be like a great fit for everyone. And so if you sort of know that, if you know who you are and the type of clients that you attract, I think that's really, really important because, that photographer over there, very fun, very playful, and is going to work really well with couples that want to have that sort of like fun environment. But the couple we were with, again, more traditional, they loved getting photos, but they didn't want to be put in that sort of situation. It was going to make them uncomfortable. And when I talk about matching, I think when a client decides, who they want to shoot their wedding, it's a huge decision. And what they should be thinking about isn't just what are my photos going to look like at the end, but what is my interaction, my experience going to be like with the photographer, because that's actually what's going to lead to the nice photos. And something that I always say to photographers too is you have to be really, really careful that you don't anchor your clients on the photos. You need to remind them that they actually have to be in the photo shoot before they get any photos. And if that experience isn't great, the photos are going to be a result of that. And so again, just I can ramble like crazy, but the way that I see Focal going is finding a way where, a client could maybe come on the Focal marketplace or go to a photographer who uses a Focal website and back end, and really get a good sense of who they are and if they're a good match, and then book them really, really easily. That's sort of what I see for the future of Focal, and that's what my dream is.
Amazing. We're so excited about that.
Well, it's been cool because, you've been with us for a fair while now, and you've seen the company grow more and more in that direction. And I think that's, again, what's really, really exciting. And I love sharing that with both of you as well.
Yeah, every month we grow a little closer to our to what we envision, and it's so exciting to see the company
Our master
grow.
plan.
Yeah, the master plan, and it's so exciting to see it grow and to just become. Each month we become more and more helpful to photographers, and it's just really exciting to see them grow with us and become really excited for what we're creating here, which is just always amazing.
Fun little community.
Yeah.
That brings me, I guess, to a question then that just popped into my head for both of you. But I want to know what you guys are most excited about for the future.
Yeah,
That's my answer.
Just keep growing
and meeting new people and bringing in new people.
Yeah, I would have to say mine is hopefully getting to meet the photographers in person. I helped plan the NADA conference in Banff, and I'm helping to plan the NADA conference in Maui, and I'm really hoping I can get to meet all these photographers in Maui and finally get to talk to some of you guys face to face. I'm a lot of the times behind the scenes, and I'm really excited to grow and get opportunities to actually talk with you guys in person, through this podcast or in Maui, and just actually get to see and meet everyone.
This is how Sierra corners me into making sure she has a seat on the plane to Maui.
It is. I'm holding you to it.
No, I do have to thank Sierra. She did such an amazing job, and if you're watching this, give her a big round of applause. Kirsty too. Kirsty did such an amazing job. I don't know, in the background you can see some of those, or if you were in Banff, you can see those amazing stickers or the amazing designs. And that's all Kirsty there. So big round of applause there too.
Dream team.
Dream team.
Okay, well, one last question. If you could tell yourself one thing when you started all this, what would you have told yourself?
One little tidbit of advice.
This is always a really, really tough one. I would have to say, I'm trying to come up with something that isn't too cheesy.
We love the cheesy.
We love cheesy.
Something if I started this. I guess this has always been a learning for me since the beginning. Obviously, I started this, it was my own personal problem that I wanted to solve. I think as Focal grows, what I'm learning more and more is that I can't do it all by myself. As much as I am a bit of a machine sometimes, and I can pull off some crazy stuff. It's impossible to do something on your own, and that goes not just for our team, like our focal team. You can see Max and Harry, working, helping photographers like on their websites right now in the background, but also like the community we have. I couldn't do this without the involvement of Taylor Jackson and Lindsay Coulter and like all the amazing mentors that came to Banff. And I think the biggest thing is that, it's maybe this is a bit of an insight for photographers as well, because I think when you're starting your business, it can be very lonely. It's a very solopreneur type of business that you're doing. You can't do it alone. You need help. You need to surround yourself with amazing people. And that's just been, one of the most amazing things for Focal. And I think that would be my recommendation to myself and also to new photographers starting out is surround yourself with people that get you, that understand what you're trying to achieve and don't look at you funny when you tell them what your dreams are, right? Like, I think that's like the biggest thing is surround yourself with good people and don't be afraid to let go a little bit.
Amazing.
I like it.
Yeah, I do too. I think that's a good piece of advice.
Good. I've provided some insightful value today, I hope. What are both of you most excited for to come on the podcast? I'd like to know that.
Learn some new things
Yeah.
about the business side of the photography world. Obviously, I come from an art background, so I have some idea of like how photography works, but I don't know anything about business at all. So
Yeah, I'm the complete opposite. I know a little bit about how business works, and I don't really know a lot about how the art works. But one of my favorite things to do with anyone is just hear their story. I love hearing people's stories because it's so different from each person. And what I've learned from working here is that photographers have amazing stories. They all are so different, and they all have the most unique backgrounds, and how they got started is so different depending on each person. And sometimes you would look at a person and you never know that they like had this whole other past, and their journey to photography has just been an amazing experience, or it's been like the hardest challenge of their whole life. And it's so intriguing and interesting to hear their stories and hear where they came from and why they're so passionate about what they do.
That's a great one, Sierra. I agree with you absolutely on that, and that's what I'm really excited for on this podcast too. Is to have more amazing guests and for us to share that. I think it's important to share those things. It's easy to do, a little interview or a podcast and just talk about like, oh, here's how I became successful, and it all sounds like sunshine and roses, but it's not easy. I don't think it is for anyone, and I think it's important to share that as well, so that people don't feel like they're crazy or what they're doing is wrong. So good. I'm really glad to hear that. Hopefully at the end of this podcast we'll have Kirsty a professional she'll have a professional business background and Sarah will be a professional photographer. That's my challenge to all of the future guests for What the Focal is you have to turn both of these two into little powerhouses. So
Make it happen.
it's gonna happen. All right, I'll leave it to you.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Lachlan. We really appreciated you hopping on here to be our first guest. And we're so excited to continue bringing on new photographers to hear about their experiences.
Thank you for listening to What the Focal, and we'll see you next time.
Bye! And if you guys are interested in just learning a little bit about Focal, hearing about our websites, we left a little link for you to book a meeting with our friend Ben. And if you're interested in getting any business advice, we did also leave a link to our Business Accelerator course that's for free. So yeah, if you guys are interested in that, it's just right in the description for you guys to find.